will come, Ray. The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball.
Little roller up along first. Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win. Now the 2-1. Line drive to the base hit. Justice has scored a tying run. Green to the plate. And he is safe. Safe at the plate. The Braves go to the World Series.
Have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines that sat when they were children and cheered their heroes.
Gibson swings and a fly ball to deep right field. This is going to be a home run. Unbelievable!
A 3-run home run for Bucky Dent. The Yankees now lead it by a score of 3-2.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mazeroski has hit a 1-0 pitch over the left field fence at Ford Field to win the 1960 World Series.
They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past.
The Pope arrived at Yankee Stadium. As one enthusiastic announcer put it, he is standing on second base.
Reggie Jackson. Long drive right field. It is. Goodbye. Big World Series.
The Blue Jays are World Series champions as Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run.
Racket throws. There's a left back. It's going to be, I believe, the Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant.
The 0-1 pitch. A liner off Nagy's glove into center field. The Florida Marlins have won the World Series.
The memories will be so thick that I can brush them in their faces.
The 1-0 delivery to Fisk. He swings long drive left field. If it stays there, it's gone. Home run. The Red Sox win. And the series is...
Lolich fires. Ball is hit high in the air. This should be the series. Freehand waving everybody away in foul territory. Detroit wins. Here's the pitch to Willie. Here's a liner straight to Richardson. The ball game is over and the World Series is over. Willie McCovey hit it like a bullet. A line drive right.
Baseball to mark the time.
The Oakland A's take. I'll tell you what, we're having an earth.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Candlestick Park for Game 3 of the 1989 World Series.
It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again.
Frank Robinson, the right-hand batter.
Long drive to left field. Way back. Gets it goodbye. Home run.
Base hit loaded, 1 out. Pena in a jam. The Twins are going to win the World Series. The Twins have won it.
I see with 1 out. Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run. And the
Willie Mays just brought this crowd to its feet with a catch, which must have been an optical illusion to a lot of people.
This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again.
Broadcasted live.
Who wants to have some fun?
There are balls coming from all over the place. Left field, center field, right field. See, this is the kind of thing, quite honestly, right now, that makes you want to see the Chicago Cubs team lose.
Now, are you just saying you want to have fun, or do you really want to have fun?
It'll be fun.
Will the next person that sees anybody throw anything onto this field, point them out, or get them out of here? You don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
That is the farthest thing in the universe from the truth.
Hello, everyone, live. It's the Dan Scott Show. And right there is your host, Dan Scott.
All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to
The Dan Scott Show. Music didn't want to stop. Hey, it's good to have you with us on this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday edition of the program. It's a beautiful morning here in the upstate of South Carolina and down on the turf below at Paladin Stadium here on the campus of Furman University. The latest preseason scrimmage going on for Clay Hendricks' team as they continue to dial it up and get ready for the season opener on September 1st at Clemson. And we'll be obviously continuing to talk a lot more about all of that coming up. On the show today, though, the first of our SoCon opponent previews from the Southern Conference and the SoCon Digital Network. We'll get a chance to check in with the VMI Keydets, courtesy of their play-by-play voice, Wade Branner, and head coach Scott Wackenheim. We'll have that for you. And then it's Wednesday. It is the latter part of August, and that means that today is the day that Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com and the syndicated David Glenn Show does his regular visit with us, and he'll be with us every Wednesday through the end of April doing these ACC check-ins. And as is always the case, we go beyond the confines of the Atlantic Coast Conference with David as well. So we're looking forward to that. Glad to have you with us today, and we got a lot to get to, so we need to jump right into it. First thing I need to remind you of is the last of the initial set of contest drawing giveaways that we're doing. If you go to the website, you see right at the top, the brand new show website, thedanscottshow.com. We are doing these drawings and these giveaways in conjunction with the launch of the new website. And you can see there the final prize we have to give away in this flurry anyway are a pair of tickets, or is a pair of tickets, to go see the Marshall Tucker Band on the 30th, which is a Thursday night, a week from tomorrow, at the TD Stage at the Peace Center. That's the outdoor concert area at the Peace Center. And as I try to always show you, I actually have the tickets right here in my hand. So you go to the website and register, thedanscottshow.com, and you'll find it. When you get to the website, then take some time and check it out. Spend some time on it. Our resource page has links to websites from just about everywhere you can imagine. First of all, if you want any information about any Division I college in the state of South Carolina, it's on my resource page. I have a list of what's called Dan's favorites, some links and sites that I particularly like, and then there are another list of national-type resources. So the resource page at my website is kind of a jumping-off point, if you will, a one-stop shop. You can go there to get to just about any other place that you want. And if there are sites you would like us to add to that page that are really good sports resource sites, then by all means, please let us know and we'll get it added there. Also on the interviews and highlights page, we're starting to accumulate some things there. And the latest one is the 30-minute interview we did with Furman Athletic Director Mike Buddy preceding his going to New York this past weekend for the 1998 New York Yankees World Series Championship reunion, the 20th year celebration. But we also got some Furman stuff in at the end that you'll want to see if you haven't seen that. It's at the website. My bio and contact information is there. And oh, by the way, you can watch the show live from there and go back and catch the archived episodes from there as well. Eventually, everything we do from a show viewing standpoint is going to be funneled to that website. So not going to take it away from you right now, but eventually the Facebook feed is going to go away, the Twitter feed is going to go away, and everything's going to go to that website. And I think I mentioned this 2 or 3 weeks ago, but Caleb Furrow, our very fine video director here at Furman, Director of Video Services, I think is the actual title, he and Carly Rose have been working on a new format look that will be showing up on your screen sometime in the very near future. It's for a new show we're going to be doing here on a weekly basis specifically for Furman on Furman's Facebook page, but this show is going to benefit from it as well, and it's going to completely change the on-screen look of things. The only issue is I have got to learn how to operate it, and that will be the delay, but I was told yesterday that the program itself is pretty much ready to go, and I just have to go into training mode to get to understand how to use it. But the cool thing, I'm told, is that one of the features is that when we have a guest, like I have Dave Glenn, if Dave is around his laptop, instead of having to do it via phone, I'll actually be able to send him a link. I mean, this is high-tech, space-age polymer type stuff here. I'll be able to send Dave a secured link, and when it's time for us to do the interview, he'll click that link, and that will bring him immediately up onto the screen. So we'll be able to actually do split screen. You'll be able to see Dave or see any other guests we have under those circumstances by using that little tool. And that's just one of the major upgrades and improvements that you're going to see once we get this thing rolling. So hopefully that's going to be rolled out in the next week or two. The biggest issue is going to be how long it takes me to get comfortable using it, and we'll see how that works out. In any event, all of that as a precursor to get you ready for today's show. Dave Glenn will be joining us at 10:25, but before we get there, we're going to get you that VMI preview coming back out of the break as we start looking at what's going on around the Southern Conference. The show, as always, is brought to you by our friends at the Carolina Creative Group. They are the people that I've partnered with for the website, the technology, the branding, all of those things, and they do it not just for me, small companies like mine, but they do it for some of the heavy hitters in the Greenville area, the upstate area, and beyond. The search engine optimization, as we get this thing rolling, means that my clients' ads are going to be seen by more people more often. And the best thing about it, if I have any questions, Randy is just a phone call away. And all that's just the tip of the iceberg. You can find out all the ways that Carolina Creative Group can help your business by calling 864-250-2012, 864-250-2012, or simply visit them online at carolinacreative.co, carolinacreative.co. Carolina Creative, not just simple, but simply brilliant. You'll hear more about them in this commercial set. You will also hear from another one of our show sponsors, among others, our good friends at the Custom Corners Frame Shop in Seneca, and we'll come back and get you that VMI preview in just a moment. Dan Scott Show, just getting cranked up on a Wednesday. Don't go away.
If you're looking for the perfect frame for that special photo or painting, Custom Corners Frame Shop in Seneca can deliver for you. Family owned for nearly 4 decades, Trevor and the folks at Custom Corners Frame Shop pride themselves on quality, presentation, and professionalism. They offer picture framing for every budget, and every job is custom. Custom Corners Frame Shop also sells work from local artists as well as locally themed gifts. For more information, visit them at 289 Market Street in Seneca. Call 864-882-7736 or find them on Facebook, Custom Corners Frame Shop in Seneca.
When you're looking for the home of a lifetime, you need a realtor you can trust. With more than 27 years experience selling real estate, Gel Sartain is the choice to help the discriminating buyer find the home of their dreams. Licensed in both South Carolina and Georgia, Gel specializes in homes on beautiful lakes Hartwell and Kiwi, as well as the surrounding areas, and has a wealth of experience working with people with technical backgrounds. Now is the time to buy, sell, and invest in real estate in the Clemson-Seneca area. Let Gail help you realize that dream today. Call her at 404-317-3171. That's Gail Sartain, a member of the National Association of Realtors.
For a child battling a critical illness, a wish come true can be a turning point. One song, one dance, one game, one moment changes everything. Make-A-Wish needs your support to grant more life-changing wishes. Visit Make-A-Wish online now. Together, we can transform lives, one wish at a time.
Hey everybody, Dan Scott here, and I want to tell you about my technology partner, Carolina Creative Group. When my show needed a creative technology boost, I turned to Carolina Creative Group. My custom design website is going to take marketing as well as brand strategy and development to new levels. The search engine optimization means that my clients' ads will be seen by more people more often. And if I have any questions, Carolina Creative Group is just a phone call away. Friends, that is just the tip of the proverbial iceberg. You can find out all the ways that Carolina Creative Group can help your business by simply calling 864-250-2012. Again, that's 864-250-2012, or simply visit them online at carolinacreative.co. Carolina Creative Group, technology partner of the Dan Scott Show. All right, welcome back to the program as we continue here on this Wednesday edition of the show. The Southern Conference football season, like all the other conferences, is upon us, and we want to try to get you as up to date on everybody as we can. And yesterday, the SoCon Digital Network dropped its first preview. Remember the videos that I shot that we played you, the complete interview with Clay Hendricks, and then the next day played the interview that we did with Thomas Gordon and Jalen Reed. Well, all the schools did that and submitted them. And VMI is up first in the rotation. This is Wade Branner with head coach Scott Wackenheim on the VMI preview of the 2018 college football season. Take a look.
Hi, welcome to Foster Stadium. It's the 2018 Southern Conference Football Preview. It is VMI Football Media Day 2018. Wade Brenner, joined by VMI head football coach Scott Wackenheim, and we're here to talk a little bit about the 2018 Keydets. First of all, camp is underway, Coach. I know you guys have been really working hard in preparation for the September 1 opener at Toledo.
Yes, the young men have been here working hard. I'm really impressed with how close-knit a team we are and how hard the young men are working. It's been a pleasure to get started on camp, and we're looking forward to the first game against Toledo in Toledo, Ohio.
Coming out of last season, Coach, what are the areas you think this team needs to improve on? What have you identified as a real focus?
Well, the first thing I identified is myself. I had to take a long look at what I need to get better at, and I've been studying really emotional intelligence and how that can help a team, similar to Doug Peterson with the Philadelphia Eagles. And what I want to do is just to be the best at getting better, and that's my goal for myself first and my players second.
You had a real young team last year where 30 players saw their first action on the field, and they grew up in a hurry. How much of that will help this year's team?
I think it will help, but we're going to be a young team again. We'll have 50 of our 91 players here right now are freshmen or sophomores, and so we're going to play a young squad again. But we are bigger, we're stronger, and we're talented, and we'll have youthful exuberance on our side.
What are some of the things from last year's team that you liked as the season progressed and you want carried over to this year?
They took on the VMI pride of never say die. They played every game to the best of their ability. They prepared extremely hard each and every week, and I'm proud that the way they fought against Wofford in the last ball game here at Foster Stadium.
Looking at both sides of the ball, Coach, who are some of the top performers that fans in the Southern Conference and those who follow the Keydets will be watching this year?
Well, I think we got great experience at the cornerback position. Two starters coming back, Tyreek Trotman and Caleb Tucker. Colin Loftus gives good depth there, as well as Mike Williams. So there's four guys that can help us play and win at that position. Our receivers are a year older. Javion Laura, Rohan Martin, and Chris Thornton all come back year older, year stronger. Tyan Smith is back healthy, a year older, and Quan Myers also. And then quarterback Reese Udinsky and Austin Colling both give us experience at that position. So I like the way we start off there. And then in the trenches, we're bigger and stronger than we've been in the past. We're just young at those positions, but I look to improve play there as well.
What is the position group that you're probably going to be doing more evaluation than normal, just simply because you've got some people to fill?
Well, linebacker is the position. We lose 200 tackles per season players in Ryan Francis and Alan Kratzenberg, but I think Elliot Brewster is poised and ready to step up at that position. And then we need to replace both our outside linebackers, as Tony Richardson and Brian Lipscomb both graduated. So the linebacker position is where we got to do the most evaluation and the most coaching to get better at.
Well, we talked about VMI being a young team, a lot of freshmen playing last year. Could that be the situation also? Could that be the case this year with that new rule in place?
Yes, we played 19 out of 22 freshmen last year, and we have 22 scholarship freshmen coming in, 31 total counting walk-ons. So with the new 4-game redshirt rule, the ability for a freshman to play in 4 games and still count as a redshirt, I think the majority of our young men will see action at some time during the season.
Coach, looking at year in and year out, one of the top, if not Southern Conference.
Loaded, you know. Position with Devlin Hodges at Sanford and Adams, just 2 very, very talented. Beating any team in the country at any time. Carolina, you know, the Citadel with their unique option attack, Wofford with their unique style of option running, and they're really strong on defense with 3 300-pound defensive linemen that you have to try and move off the ball. Furman's back to the Furman of old and running the option also. So you got 3 teams that run triple option football. Then you got Sanford with the air raid passing attack. You got to defend a variety of teams, and it's a very strong defensive league. So every week will be a competitive ball game.
Well, this year, and it seems always for the Keydets, a tough and demanding schedule, starting with Toledo of the MAC on the road. A comment about this year's 2018 slate.
It's a great opportunity for greatness out there. Toledo's the MAC champion, preseason pick to win the MAC. They got 3 receivers that have been touted as the best trio in the country at any level. So it's a great opportunity to go down there. It's a tremendous atmosphere to play in. Then we go to Wofford and Spartanburg with the 2-time defending SoCon champion Wofford Terriers. Great defense, option style offense, and then we come home for the home opener against East Tennessee State. Great start for the season. Excited to go out and compete against those teams.
Coach, appreciate the time and good luck this year.
Thank you, Wade. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
That's head coach Scott Wackenheim, and coming up next, we're going to talk to a couple of Keydet football players, Mason Dermott and Reek Trotman. Stay tuned as the Southern Conference preview continues. Our 2018 SoCon preview continues on VMI Football Media Day. Wade Branner joined now by senior return specialist wide receiver Mason Dermott. You came to the team as a walk-on, and your roles gradually increased each year, and here you are now as the top return specialist, not only on the team but in the Southern Conference as well. And I know that's a role that you relish and work hard at. What is your attitude when you're taking the ball back on kick returns?
Coming in, you know, the first opportunity I got was at Akron. You know, Greg Sanders was a starting returner, and he actually blocked the field goal and took it back, and he was winded right then, so we needed somebody to return kicks, and I was the next in line. And so they called my number, and ever since then, you know, I want a small opportunity, and I got my opportunity, and here I am today, and I love it. Every time, you know, we get the kick return, I'm excited. It's an opportunity for me to make something happen, create energy for the team, and just get us rolling.
Mason, you've also played an increased role on offense as a wide receiver and running back. Have a new offensive coordinator now, and Coach Brian Shepard. Can you talk about what he has brought to the offense and since coming on board last spring?
Coach Shepard's awesome. He's an offensive guru. I've learned a lot from him, just from him being here in the spring and now in the summer. You know, I've learned a ton of offense from him alone. You know, he's a no-nonsense kind of guy, but off the field, he leaves it on the field. You know, if I see him in the cafeteria, he'll just ask me how I'm doing, how's life going. So it's pretty cool knowing that he's no nonsense out here, and he's gonna let us know what we need to do. But up there on the hill or wherever else you see him, you know, he's just a great guy wanting to know how you're actually doing. So I think we're going to do some pretty good things this year on offense. I'm excited to see how it goes.
And as a team, I know you'd like to, as a senior, be that guy on that team to really turn VMI football around.
Now we got one more season to do it, and I think we are. You know, there's a group of seniors on this team, and I think that we're leading in a way that we should be. And not only on the field, but I want to have an impact on the kids coming up to you know, to show what it really is like to be a leader and to win games, you know, and how to do it the right way. So one more season to do it, and I think we're going to do it.
All right, Mason, best of luck this year.
Thank you.
It's Mason Dermott, return specialist, senior out of Roanoke, Virginia, and our SoCon preview will continue. Welcome back to the 2018 Southern Conference Football Preview. We're at Foster Stadium. It is VMI Football Media Day, and we're now joined by senior defensive back Rick Trotman. I know you're into camp now and really looking forward, high expectations for this coming season of 2018.
Absolutely, absolutely. A big goal for us is just win the day. Coach has a motto, get the best at being better. So that's our motto every day, be better than you were the day before. So that's what we pride ourselves on. We have this expectations throughout practice and the locker room and in the classroom, whereas zero tolerance for mediocrity. So we hold everybody to the highest standard possible. You know, like VMI, there's always standards. So it just like kind of calculates out on the field as well. So we see anybody slacking off, we make sure they're putting forth maximum effort, maximum enthusiasm, make sure everybody's not taking no plays off. So we won't have to repeat what happened last year.
Now in this defensive secondary, you're the old man of the group now. You are a returning 3-year starter. You're the veteran. You talked about some of the leadership requirements for the role you're going to have to take this year.
Yes, sir. Well, for one, being the leader, I have to make sure I am doing everything I'm supposed to be doing and doing what's told and going past that limit. I have to set the example for the rest of the secondary. I have to basically coach up the secondary when coach is not around to see everything. I'm basically the secondary coach on the sideline. I'm seeing what he's not seeing, and if he is busy working with another corner, I'll come and give a few pointers to the corners. Not only even the corners, also like the safeties. What I do in film, I try to study the whole defense as a whole because I feel like I'm well enough in my position and the game is slowed down enough for me that I can now give a little input, a little help to the other positions that, like if it's the outside linebackers, I'll be like, hey, get a little bit more depth, help us out a little bit. The safeties, make sure you're communicating with us, make sure you're being loud corners, make sure you're doing your job because that's like the biggest thing about our team and our defense. You have to be disciplined and do your job.
What identity would you like for this defense of 2018 to have?
I want us to just be 100% dominant all the way throughout, whether it's the run or the pass. I want teams to not know what to do against us, you know. I want them to be like, okay, we want to pass. Wait, we can't pass. Their secondary is really good. Well, we'll have to run it down our throat. Well, we can't because their defensive line is just great and their linebackers are filling the holes and making the tackles. So I just want us to have the identity of doing everything right and doing everything to maximum effort and discipline. So they.
All right, that was your VMI preview. The video stalled, but at least you got the audio part of it, and you got a little bit of a gist of what the 2018 Keydets are looking for. These interviews, if we're being candid about them, it's kind of like spring training for baseball. I've talked about it before. Everybody's undefeated. Everybody is optimistic. The one thing that Scott Wackenheim did say that I thought was very candid right early on in the interview when Wade Branner asked him what do they have to improve on. He said the first person he looked at was himself as a head coach. And I thought that was a very honest response. And I think most coaches try to do that. They don't all verbalize it, but I thought that was a rather candid moment from Scott Wackenheim in that preview. So we'll continue with those. And when we come back, Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com will join us on the other side. This is the Dan Scott Show, and Dave will be up with us in just a moment. Hey, everybody, Dan Scott. I've been telling you for some time now that I switched the protection of my home and family to Security Complete. I can tell you that I've been ecstatic with the results. Locally owned with more than 40 years experience in the industry, Security Complete uses nothing but the latest technology, which equals low overhead, which equals greater savings to the customer. Fully automated systems with monitoring rates much lower than the competition. Security Complete gives you all this and does not require a contract of any length. Find out more by calling 864-546-0630 or find them on Facebook and Twitter. Security Complete, my first line of defense. Make them yours today.
Looking for a great car, but your credit needs work? Premier Automotivations is a professional referral service motivated to help you drive a car you love while rebuilding your credit. Late model cars of all kinds. Premier Automotivations can get you on the road and your credit on the road to recovery today. Serving all of upstate South Carolina, it's Premier Automotivations. Call Sherry today at 864-722-3785 or email cricketgravely@gmail.com.
When you go in search of a fence company, what's your criteria? Experience? Trust? A company that gets it right the first time and stands behind its work? Then your search is over. Faulkner Fence has been Greenville's fence company for more than 40 years. Ed Faulkner started the business, and now son Todd continues the tradition of excellence. So regardless of your fencing needs, commercial, industrial, or residential, trust the company that Greenville has trusted for over 4 decades. Faulkner Fence, 864-271-4626, or online at faulknerfencecompany.com.
Dan Scott here for the Atlanta Bread Company. What do I like about Atlanta Bread? Well, too much to mention in a short commercial, but here are a few things. Bread baked daily fresh on site, a tremendous selection of soup, sandwiches, and salads, seasonal special additions to the menu, delicious hot coffee, and a bevy of other drink options. And yeah, can't forget about the baked sweet goodies. Dine in or carry out, and when you have the Atlanta Bread Company app, you can order and pay online, then breeze past the lines to the pickup counter to get your food. Experience it for yourself. That's the Atlanta Bread Company, Cherrydale Point in Greenville. All right, welcome back to the program. We continue live here on the Dan Scott Show. Good to have you with us on this Wednesday edition. Tomorrow, Scott Keeler will be joining us, and we'll take our first look at some of the high school football action coming up around the area. Again, I refuse to do week 0, which was last week, so we're starting with week 1, and Scott will be with us via phone. Normally on Fridays, but just a heads up, I will not be here on Friday, so we're going to talk with Scott tomorrow. As we get back to play now, I love hitting this theme music. I love it, I love it, I love it, because it means that every Wednesday between now and the end of April, not only are you going to get great information, not only are you going to be most of the time highly entertained, but from strictly a talk show standpoint, we kill a segment. And since he's gone into this business full-time, Dave Glenn knows how important that is. David Glenn of the ACCSports.com site and the syndicated Dave Glenn Show joining us on the program today. How you doing, man?
I'm doing really well, Dan. I know if we're talking regularly again, the games are not too far away. So even though there's always a lot of off-season headlines, not always good ones for the ACC and around college sports, it's always fun, I think, for all of us, coaches, players, fans, media, when the games are almost here. And once again, you know, the Clemson Tigers right in your backyard are the starting point that makes the ACC relevant in football, which, as you know, they were not always that on the gridiron. So it's fun for everybody, especially at this time of year.
Yeah, over the years that you and I have been doing this, and I was talking to another friend of yours whose show you've done about as long as you've done mine, Brian Hall, up in Asheville. Over the years we've been doing this, there were a lot of years that Clemson was a good team who would jump up and win a game maybe they shouldn't win, and would find a way to lose a game they shouldn't have lost, and never really kind of reached that potential. But man, since Dabo Swinney has taken over the program, obviously they have become the ACC's bell cow. I guess the question off the top is, we're starting to preview these things now, is it Clemson and everybody else in the ACC, or will the Tigers have some serious competition?
Over 12 games, it is Clemson and everybody else. Meaning, if they stay relatively healthy, the Tigers, over 12 games, they will prove to be the best team, and they will have the best record. But as you and I both know, Dan, that does not mean that on a given day, home or away, regardless of opponent, somebody else in the ACC or even in the Tigers' non-conference schedule couldn't jump up and get them. That's just how football works. We saw it even last year with an amazingly good Clemson team that went a long, long way. So over the long haul, the best team usually proves out. But in the short term, you just never know. The Tigers have to go to an unpredictable Florida State team under a first-year head coach. The Tigers have to go to a rejuvenated Boston College team that thinks they might have the best team they've had under Steve Adazio and all of his years there. You have to go to see Paul Johnson at Georgia Tech and deal with that mind-numbing triple option. At the trip to Texas A&M, obviously, the Tigers will be favored. But what will Jimbo Fisher have in year one with the Aggies? We're not sure about a lot of those things. So I still think if you ask me Clemson versus the field, in other words, I could have the other 13 teams or Clemson at the Vegas betting window to win the ACC title. I'm still taking the Clemson Tigers.
And obviously it's going to start up front with them. The biggest surprise, I think, of the just past NFL draft is that all four of those Clemson defensive linemen decided to forego it and come back for either a junior or a senior season, and that has got to really terrorize, I think, opposing offensive coordinators.
Oh, it's incredible. That is one of the great stories that we talked with Dabo Swinney about back at the ACC kickoff event, and he talked about the culture there and how players truly, for the most part, love being there and feel like in some cases they have unfinished business and enjoy their teammates and enjoy the passionate fan base and enjoy the full Death Valley and don't mind postponing, a multi-million-dollar professional career. That's incredible. In one case, Dexter Lawrence, at least he didn't have a decision technically because he was only 2 years into his college career. But the other three guys did have that option last spring. If you paid attention around the rest of the ACC or the rest of the nation, most guys projected in the first round, and many others, even if they were told there were second or third rounders, chose to leave. Nyheim Hines was this playmaking return man and running back at NC State. He was told, you're not going to be a first rounder. You probably won't be a second rounder. And he said, I'm leaving anyway. These defensive linemen at Clemson in three cases, and they're all on the preseason All-ACC team. Some of them are on the preseason All-American teams. Those three that had the choice to make were, for the most part, even more highly regarded, and yet they decided to stay. So it is the path less traveled. I think it has a lot to do with that dynamic personality of Dabo Swinney that you and I have discussed for a long time. And he is the centerpiece, whether it's churning out NFL players on the back end or signing top 10 recruiting classes on the front end or having guys prepared to play on Saturdays. Dabo Swinney, before the age of 50, I believe is already one of the best coaches in ACC football history. And obviously he has plenty of time to add to his sparkling resume.
We are visiting with Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com, as we will do now every Wednesday between now and the end of April. And not just the ACC. We usually find ways to go beyond the confines of the conference boundaries. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we'll leave to your discretion. From a quarterback standpoint in this league, David, does it start with Ryan Finley at NC State? I mean, Lamar Jackson is gone. Kelly Bryant's back at Clemson. He's going to be challenged maybe by Trevor Lawrence some. But looking around the rest of the league, does the quarterback ranking start with Ryan Finley in your estimation?
I think so. He's thrown for more than 3,000 yards in back-to-back seasons, and that's not easy to do. There are other really good ones, though. We remember that DeAndre Francois looked pretty promising before he got hurt against Alabama for Florida State at the beginning of last season. So not only is he back, the guy who started in his place, James Blackman, is back at Florida State. So we'll see if they can take a leap forward under Willie Taggart with the new head coach there. Eric Dungey at Syracuse is a really proven guy. When he has been healthy, he has been amazing. Would you believe Donovan McNabb and Eric Dungey are the only quarterbacks in Syracuse history with at least 6,000 passing yards and 1,000 rushing yards? I mean, that's pretty good company, right?
Yeah,
Donovan
absolutely.
McNabb. The Duke Blue Devils have a guy that they really like in Daniel Jones being back. He was not as good this past year as he was the previous season, but that's an NFL prospect and a heck of a player. At NC State, you're smart to circle Ryan Finley, not only because of his track record. This is his third straight year as the Wolfpack starter after he transferred from Boise State. But he has targets. I mean, the Wolfpack lost a lot to the NFL. ACC Player of the Year, Bradley Chubb from the defensive line. I mentioned Nyheim Hines, and there were others. I mean, the Wolfpack had its biggest and best NFL draft class in the history of the program. However, one of the other best players on the team is a wideout named Kelvin Harmon. And when you put experienced, proven veteran QB Ryan Finley together with experienced, proven wide receiver Kelvin Harmon, there's a chance that some magic happens with that connection, in part because the Wolfpack may not have quite as much talent on the line and at running back. So that 50-50 balance they've had with running and passing in recent years probably will be harder to pull off this year. And that might mean they lean even more on Ryan Finley's arm and Kelvin Harmon and others at wide receiver. So, it starts with Ryan Finley. But as you said, even at Clemson and Miami and other places, there are plenty of talented QBs worth watching.
With State, as you just referenced, having its best draft class maybe ever, and look at the talent that went into the NFL off that team. Did Dave Doran, has he missed a window of opportunity at NC State?
I think there's a good chance that he did. We won't know for sure until we see whether he can sustain this. Last year was the best year by far of his 5 seasons in Raleigh. Now, he thinks he has built a firm foundation. It's clear that he's been recruiting better than most Wolfpack coaches that I have followed. I mean, Chuck Amato was a heck of a recruiter. But the Wolfpack, like everybody else in this state, has typically kind of looked up at the Tar Heels. The Tar Heels have been the standard bearer in football recruiting here in North Carolina for most of my 30-plus years covering this stuff. Now, there are exceptions to that occasionally, but this is one of them. Dave Doran has turned that tide the way Chuck Amato had turned that tide. And Amato led the Wolfpack to its biggest win total in school history back in the Phillip Rivers era. They won 11 games one year. Dave Doran has one more on the field, including head-to-head against the Tar Heels lately. He's turned the tide in recruiting. We'll see how much of that young talent shows up this year, but there's no doubt that it's a huge challenge to replace all those. I think it was 7 NFL draft picks, the most ever at NC State. And I think when we reflect back, while we will call last year a good season for NC State, I think there's going to be a lot of wondering about whether they did miss that opportunity with, all 4 starting defensive linemen. We're talking about Clemson along those lines right now. All 4 of the Wolfpack starting defensive linemen are in NFL training camps right now. And so is Jalen Samuels, their hybrid back, and so are 2 offensive linemen, and so is Nyheim Hines as a returner and running back. I mean, it was a heck of a class. And you wonder if they should have had maybe another double-digit win total.
Dave, one of the coaching moves out of the ACC this year was Pitt's defensive coordinator, Josh Conklin, coming to the Southern Conference to take over as the head coach of the Wofford Terriers. He had been on Mike Ayer's staff at Wofford previously, has been at a number of places. I know he's highly regarded. What are SoCon opponents going to see, in your estimation, from a Josh Conklin coached Wofford Terrier team?
I think balance is one thing to given his back track record. Balance is something that they valued at his previous stops, and I think that's what he's going to try to bring to Wofford. I don't know him personally the way I've known a lot of other ACC assistant coaches over the years, so it's only really observing from afar. But this is a guy who was defensive-minded under a defensive-minded guy as the defensive coordinator at Pitt. And Pat Narduzzi was a legendary defensive coordinator at Michigan State. So those who believe in the power of the family tree or the coaching tree, so to speak, if the more weight you place on that, the more excited you can be about Josh Conklin. Because Narduzzi, it's easy to forget because he was in Big Ten country. He was a huge part of Michigan State's success prior to getting his opportunity as a head coach in the ACC. So Josh Conklin, I'm sure, is going to recruit and coach him up on the defensive side of the ball. And like Pat Narduzzi, he's going to want to have one of those run-pass balances that makes it harder for defensive coordinators, the shoes that he knows best, to predict what's coming and to tilt his defensive game plan that way.
Visiting with Dave Glenn, ACCSports.com. We have not seen Willie Taggart coach a game yet at Florida State, but the folks down in Seminole Country really seem to be taken with this guy. He has re-embraced Bobby Bowden and everything that he meant to that program, where Jimbo Fisher was intentionally distant towards the legendary coach. and Taggart does have a track record of success. So all that being said, I found it interesting. I think it's Dennis Dodd from CBSSports.com. I may be wrong on that, but for a few years now has been doing these confidential surveys with Division I head coaches around the country and getting them to answer some pretty intense questions as long as their identities aren't revealed. And one of the questions each year is the most overrated coach in America. And lo and behold, Willie Taggart's name came up on that list from his peers. Did that surprise you at all?
It did not at all, and there's a couple reasons why. Number one, he just got a plum job in college football, and he got it at only 41 years old. And that is going to create resentment around college football among folks who think, well, he didn't deserve that. He didn't earn that. He hasn't done enough to follow in the shoes of a guy like a Bobby Bowden or even a Jimbo Fisher. So the resentment factor is going to put him on the radar that way. And even among those who are trying to be fair-minded and more even-keeled, I think what they're suggesting is, hey, he did have some success at his alma mater, Western Kentucky, but it was only for 3 years, and it was only the Sun Belt Conference. He did have some success at South Florida, including a 10-win season and a top 25 finish. That was 2 years ago. But that's only the American Athletic Conference, and he was only there for 4 years. And then last year, of course, he was at Oregon. He didn't think he'd be there only 1 year, but that's how it turned out. And he had a losing record in Pac-12 play, and he was 7-5 overall. So that's not exactly a great resume builder. So you're going to have a thinner resume if you're only 41 years old by definition. Mm-hmm. So again, some are resentful because he got an opportunity that maybe others felt they deserved or somebody they knew deserved. But the other part of it, he's never been anywhere longer than 4 years. And his success has come outside the Power 5 leagues. And that's going to leave some skepticism. And in that case, some fair skepticism about what he's going to do now that he's playing with the big boys, so to speak.
Yeah, I was going to say, the way you're framing that, it sounds like that skepticism is warranted. That doesn't mean that the guy's not a good football coach. I guess it's a wait-and-see proposition.
Yeah, in South Florida, what he did there, I understand anybody who's skeptical about a 1 or 2 year coaching stretch anywhere, right? Mm-hmm. You're always using somebody else's players unless you were promoted from within. The most impressive thing on his resume by far is that when he was given 4 years at South Florida, he took over and went 2-10 his first year. They were one of the worst teams in that league, if not the worst. And he got to 8 wins by his third year and went to a bowl. And he went 10-2 and finished number 19 in the final rankings by his fourth year, one of the better seasons in South Florida history. And, that catapulted him into the Oregon job and on the radar of the coaching carousel more generally. So when you can go from 2-10 to 10-2 over 4 years, by the time you got to your fourth year, those were almost entirely your players, mm-hmm. right? And that is a heck of an accomplishment. And the American Athletic Conference, while not in the Power 5, it is the next best league most years, or at least in the conversation for it. So it's not like he did that at the Division III level. That's a good program in a good league. And from 2-10 to 10-2 over a 4 year or 3 years separated, that's a heck of an item to have on your resume. And it's another one of the reasons that he was on Florida State's radar to begin with.
All right, the stock question that we ask every year on this initial interview heading into the season, early candidates for the Coach of the Year, early candidates for the hot seat.
Yeah, I think Steve Adazio could be on both of those lists, believe it or not, at Boston College. He's been there long enough and has not had more than 7 wins in a single season that expectations are higher. I talked to him at ACC kickoff, and he's like, nobody has to beat around the bush with me. I know how this game works. I've been here as the head coach. This is my 6th season, and I've never gone better than 7-6. And 7-6 was fine if you were taking over a broken program and you got to a bowl his first year, which he did. But by year 6, 7-6 is not good enough. By year 6, when you've never had a winning conference record. He's never been better than 4-4 in conference play with the Eagles. Expectations are higher. And he does have a good returning nucleus. And he does have a great player in A.J. Dillon at running back. And he does have an experienced offensive line. So he could be the ACC Coach of the Year if the Eagles break through and have a great season, because nobody's used to them sort of emerging from the middle of the pack. But he also could be on the firing line if he somehow face plants with all of those things going for him. Because, again, by year 6, you got to do better than that. So there are other guys worth watching. You know, Paul Johnson at Georgia Tech, to me, is eternally a candidate to either end his relationship with Georgia Tech or break through with another socking run to the ACC title game. That just seems to be in his DNA at Georgia Tech after all of these years. And then I don't think he's on the front burner hot seat, but Larry Fedora at UNC has just taken hit after hit after hit, some of them on the field, going 3-9 last year. Others off the field with all the crazy headlines and even some NCAA problems that you probably read and talked about. I wouldn't put him squarely on the hot seat, but I think if he had another disastrous season, he's going to have everybody looking up, the buyout terms in his contract. And that's just 3 years removed from when he won a school record 11 games and took the Tar Heels to the ACC championship game. It's amazing how quickly these things can turn in college football.
Dave, before we let you go, there was since the last time we talked, and we visited, I think 2 weeks ago, talking about the next thing or the latest thing that happened with North Carolina. Since then, the news came down of the new rule changes in college basketball as coming off the recommendations from the Rice Commission. Your overall opinion on those, number one, and then number two, there's a quote from you from your show on your website that says, "Don't let perfect be the enemy of good." Explain that.
Yeah, that's always been one of my favorite phrases, and it definitely applies here. A lot of the feedback from the Rice Commission and even the adopted proposals was, it's same old, it's the exploitative, rotten NCAA, it's a corrupt organization, they're not doing anything right. And my point was, listen, if you're one of those who philosophically believes that they need to start over, or they need to go straight to pay for play, or they need to go to an Olympic-style model, it's not happening. It won't go to pay for play in my career unless it's an act of Congress or a Supreme Court decision. It's just not going to happen. So if you're one of those who believes that the best athletes in the biggest revenue sports do get the short end of the financial stick, I agree with you philosophically, but can't we talk about something else when there are tweaks to the model that are important ones? And I believe that telling a former player, for example, you have 10 free years of education. If you meet certain criteria, you have 10 free years of coming back to school and making progress towards your degree. That's not a little thing to the people who fit that description. That's a big thing. And it wasn't a rule before, and it is a rule now. And that's important. So when I say don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, as long as you're staring at your dream system and you are just criticizing and naysaying toward every other tweak to the existing model, I think you're missing the point. I think you're living in a la-la dreamland that is simply not going to unfold anytime soon. So in the real world, let's work with what we have. Let's work with a model that, whether you like it or not, is going to be the foundation of college sports for a while longer at least. And let's figure out a way to create more funds for more athletes. Dan, fans don't even realize, if you show financial need and you need to fly home because you have to bury grandma, you get it in the current NCAA. They needed to change to no limits on food for college athletes. They made the change. They needed to change with the cost of attendance adjustment. That's now thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a year in the pockets of college athletes that were not in those pockets 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50 years ago. So yes, there's more money involved now, but yes, tweak by tweak. You need a computer, you get it. You need a suit for an interview. There's now a fund that you can go to get that. There's all sorts of changes. I know they're only tweaks to the model, But there are a lot of good news changes that happened even with this offseason set of proposals, including some that I've mentioned. I don't know how the summer recruiting approach is going to work out. I don't know how some of the other things they have adopted are going to work out. But I don't think it's a bad thing that elite high school prospects and elite college prospects can now get the advice of agents without jeopardizing their eligibility as long as they follow certain rules. And again, the naysayers say, "Oh, great! Now you're just letting the dirty, rotten agents steer these kids in the wrong direction." Well, you used to criticize the NCAA for not allowing these guys to talk to agents. Now you're criticizing the NCAA for allowing them to talk to agents. I mean, come on, you got to pick a side of the fence. Sometimes the critics just are hypocritical. And I think the NCAA took baby steps toward a fairer, smarter system this summer. And frankly, I think that's something we should all celebrate, regardless of whether we think there's a better system out there somewhere down the road.
And when all this was announced, I can't remember who the spokesman for the commission was or for the NCAA, but they did say that, look, this is a work in progress. You know, we're going to see how this works, and we're going to look at it. We're going to tweak it and make changes as we go on. This was not, in effect, the final model that they're trotting out and saying, well, this is it. This is the best we can do.
Correct. And they know, and some of the coaches have already spoken out on this. There are unforeseeable consequences. There are wrinkles that, all the best planning cannot always anticipate when you're making significant changes. I love more education for former college basketball players for free. I like professional representation and these athletes having access to that when, the previous complaint was, well, it was the school in their ear. And, the school has an incentive to tell them to stay. Well, yeah, and the agent is now going to have an incentive to tell them to leave. Well, at least they have access to more information, and the NCAA is going to somehow certify the agents who are allowed to do these things. I'm also in favor of harsher penalties for schools that violate major rules.
Mm-hmm.
They've created a new body. Dan, I think you and I have talked about this for over a decade because of my legal background. You cannot take a bigger swat at the piñata in an intelligent way if you really want to punish wrongdoers when A, you prevented your own staff from adopting the findings of governmental bodies. You were not allowed to use court cases. You were not allowed to use FBI investigations. You were not allowed to use reports from, an accrediting university body or a school authorized commission. You had to do it all independently. You could look at those things and then ask questions based on them, but you couldn't adopt the evidence from those outside entities. Now you can. And now they've created a complex case unit whose job it will be to spend more time and rather than being, a part-time law professor masquerading as an NCAA compliance person, now it is they're creating a smarter approach to gathering evidence, a smarter approach to having these bodies whose job it will be to evaluate this evidence. They're attaching harsher penalties to the schools and harsher penalties to the coaches when the coaches are involved. All of those are steps forward in my eyes, even if some of the other proposals adopted are more, wait and see. I think there's a lot to celebrate. You try to get better in life a little bit every day. As a person, as a business, as a radio show, that's what the NCAA did with its basketball this summer. And I think it's only the harshest critics who don't understand that, yes, we should be applauding these baby steps, even if we all know it's far from a perfect model.
Well, again, we're going to watch and see how it plays out, and at least they've tried something, and if they're willing to get that feedback and continue to tweak the model moving forward, I think under the circumstances, you can't ask for much more than that because, quite honestly, everybody wants the perfect fix, but there is no perfect fix in this situation. So
there's not. There's no system that will stop people from breaking rules, period. There's not. And one more I didn't even mention, undrafted NBA players can now return to college if you fit certain circumstances. So, again, that's what the critics have been calling for a decade. They got it, sort of. There's some fine print, but they got it, and then they're still complaining. That's the part that I don't get.
One thing we do get is that you have an incredible source of information for people who want to follow you. Why don't you tell them how they can do that?
Yeah, on Twitter, we are at ACC Sports with the magazine and website. The league would love that handle, but we have it at ACC Sports. And we're also with the radio show at David Glenn Show. So I have a lot of ACC stuff there, including audio from our program, obviously. And online, it continues to be ACCsports.com as our Grand Central station. Not only is our annual kickoff magazine out and has been for a while, we're already writing our ACC basketball preview edition. That won't be out for a while. But we have all day, every day football, basketball, recruiting. We have analytics from one of our top writers, Brian Geisinger. We have all sorts of the insider info that we've been famous for 30 years now. So we hope folks will check it out. Basketball, football, recruiting, and more at ACCsports.com.
It is a wonderful day in my life every year when we resume these interviews, Dave. Thank you so much, my friend.
Always fun, Dan. Good to be with you, bud. Take care.
Talk to you next week. That is Dave Glenn of ACCsports.com. Before we say goodbye, just a reminder about our friends at Hall's Chop House. They're located in downtown Greenville, the Greenville Steakhouse, and they are there to serve you, basically. And they serve you Allen Brothers Prime Steaks out of Chicago. They are just incredible cuts of meat, and everything else on the menu falls right into place from there. And as I've been telling you, folks, the most amazing thing about them to me is the restaurant is packed. It's a very very high energy place, and they find a way to make your table feel like it's the most important one in the place. And that is incredible training and dedication by Billy Hall and his staff. They're open Friday and Saturdays for lunch now, Sunday brunch, music every time the doors are open, live music, as a matter of fact, and so much more. And you may be seeing a Dan Scott Show sighting on site down there on a Friday or two leading into their lunch hour. All that and so much more at Hall's Chop House, downtown Greenville, the Greenville Steakhouse. And as always with all of our sponsors, I need you to tell them that you heard about them here on the show. All right, that will put a wrap on things for us. Tomorrow on the program, Scott Keeler is going to join us to get our first look at some high school football here in the upstate of South Carolina. We'll have another Southern Conference preview video for you, and who knows what else. Things are beginning to really roll for us here as we head down the stretch to the opening of the 2018 college football season. And a reminder that I will not be here on Monday, so check that out tomorrow. And then, I won't be here Friday. We'll be back on Monday. If you missed yesterday's show with Crystal Alifano from Make-A-Wish, we made the announcement of the partnership between the show and the Make-A-Wish South Carolina organization. You can see that. Go to danscottshow.com, and in the rail on the right at the top of the page where the video player is, you'll find that video right there. Go back and watch it. Really, really excited about that partnership. And I'll also say this as we head out the door. If you are a small business, then you need to get in touch with me about the ways we can help you with affordable and effective advertising for as low as just $400 for an entire year. Email me, Dan at thedanscottshow.com, and we'll get you some information. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow morning. Until then, I'm Dan Scott. God bless you. So long, everybody.